Grand Rising loves. It is Wednesday. Wednesday is the day ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the planet of communication. And Mercury being the planet of communication, we are actually in the shadow because it started to go direct the 21st of February. And so in these next couple weeks, it is still in its shadow until it goes fully direct. And so retrogrades are always about a review. What is no longer working for you? So Mercury, every single time, and it goes retrograde more than any other planet. And so I decided yesterday to start adding the planetary days because I feel there's so many tools that are not being utilized in the human experience to help people gain wisdom to how to move through the human experience. And we are here. I mean, we're in it, but we're not human. Grand Rising, beautiful sister Diana. And so when we look up at the sky, that's Maya. Maya is illusion, okay? But if you see beyond the illusion, you realize that there is wisdom in the design. There's a reason why there's a specific blueprint that crystallizes the moment you take your first breath. That's your natal chart. There is also ley lines the moment you are birthed. And so there is no mistake about any of it. You purposely and hand select that experience of your birth. And so if you are wise enough to tap into all of the different patterns, because we're not looking for perfection, you look at the patterns of everything that can help you remember who you really are. And so astrology is one of those tools. So is body design, so is numerology, so is Vedic charts, so is the Mayan calendar, so is ley lines. I'm trying to think of what else. The love cards. There are so many practices that if you listen to them all, it's just like all religions. When you read the stories and you see the archetypes, you start to realize, whoa, there is a pattern to this. How could the Mayan culture and the ancient Egyptians have so many synchronicities? So many common things? Well, hello, because that's meant to help us reclaim our wisdom in the human experience. So I decided yesterday that I would start talking about the planetary rulings for each day as I did the spread. So if it is a synchronicity for you, your body will be all lit up and you will be drawn to that thing. That's why I try to use the different practices here, sacred geometry, crystals, so that if that is something that's a synchronicity for you, you dive in. The point is not to take my word as expert advice, but to go with your feels. That's how the human experience becomes effortless, because you're moving through spirit, not moving through your humanness, which is ego. And the ego is what thinks you're less than or better than, or the need to defend itself. That is all ego construct. And the ego is not meant to be integrated. It's meant to be eradicated. It is an impediment. So anyhow, today is a Mercury day. Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in its shadow. It just came out of a retrograde, and it goes retrograde more than any other planet. And Mercury rules communication. That's why technology tends to get all jacked up during Mercury retrogrades. That's a real thing, right? So if you are actually communicating the way you are meant to, a lot of times you won't experience those things. Okay, but it is important for you to know your natal chart also to see what the connection Mercury has to you. So right away off the bat, if you don't feel like diving in, know that Mercury rules communication. If Wednesday is ruled by Mercury, pay attention to how you communicate. So communication also involves listening. It's not just a whole bunch of talking at people. It's also like, am I hearing? Am I listening? So that I can communicate more effectively, right? And so, for instance, Mercury is actually in my 6th house, which is wellness. And my 6th house is ruled by Aries. So Mercury, and by the way, I pulled this card today. So this is why I'm like diving into it even more to share. Because lovely card that was in my personal pull, which I thought was really badass for a synchronicity. But anyhow, that means because Aries is fiery, it's directive, it's masculine, I am meant to be a force in communication, but as a service to the wellness of others, which is really what I'm pushing myself to do because I'm not comfortable being visible and vocal in such a big way, but I know that that's my purpose here. So I've really been pushing myself into those greater levels of communication and being more public with it on a grander scale. And so where is Mercury in your natal chart? What house is it in your natal chart? Both of those make a difference. Okay, and so when Mercury goes retrograde, it's saying, what past patterns of communication or problem solving are not working for you? That's why planets go retrograde, because we're really meant to reflect and heal that thing. And anything that's healed in a retrograde becomes a permanent change in your life. And so the shadow aspects, like the shadow going into the retrograde, is a preview. This is what you're going to be dealing with this retrograde. When it's in the retrograde, you're in it. And then the shadow aspect leaving is like the cleanup. It's like the cleanup crew coming to sweep up all the shit, that's all the pieces that have fallen away from the destruction of whatever you've done, right? So say one thought pattern is a plate and you're like smashing the plates. And so the shadow leaving, going direct, is like, okay, we're coming in. It's the cleanup crew. That's what that shadow is. So right now we're in that. We're in the cleanup crew of the Mercury retrograde. And Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. So really pay attention to that. Any predisposition for you to hold on to old ways of communicating, right? Do you let people talk over you instead of saying, I have something worthy to say right now? So be aware of that. Okay, so anyhow, now to the spread. And thank you for the 5 of you that are like hanging in there listening to me ramble. Because this is one thing about me. I don't think before I speak, and I don't think before I act. I am more spirit than human. And so I feel like I go off on tangents, but it's like, okay, is that all that's in there? Let's see. But anyway, it comes through me. It's not me. It's just, it sounds like Sherry because that's my blueprint. Oh, Ava, thank you. What a beautiful soul. Thank you. Oh, that made me giddy. Thank you. So this is a sacred geometry that showed up today. The hexahedron. Now the hexahedron is powerful because this is a solid foundation of masculine energy. It's a support. It's a supportive energy. And it also brings the wisdom of being able to see from all sides, right? You can see up, you can see down, you can see from the left to the right, forward and behind you. It actually holds that sacred wisdom of the shaman. The shaman is able to seamlessly be able to view all aspects. And so that's beautiful, right? Because you can see all sides. So that you really realize in your deepest knowing there is no right or wrong, okay? But it showed up in the reverse. Oh, Stephanie, I love you. Thank you. And so hexahedron showing up in the reverse really brings the message that you have hemmed yourself into a corner. Okay? You feel stuck. You feel stagnated. And I talked about this because last time it showed up, it also showed up in the reverse. So you have really backed yourself into a corner, and it's going to take a radical action of change for you to get out of it. Now remember, it is literally impossible to regress on the spiritual path, but it is possible to stagnate. It is possible to plateau. So you hemming yourself into the corner, the hexahedron in reverse, is saying, okay, you did it, maybe by holding your tongue, right? So today being a Mercury day, is there something that needs to be said to get yourself out of the corner? Right? Did you agree to something that you really, really in your most authentic self know that, fuck, I shouldn't have done that? Right? Well, today's the day to free yourself from that corner. So really pay attention to that, because remember, this is current to the day. This is not like, don't carry that with you. Just be aware of this, okay? Now the upper world showed up, and I love this card. Isn't this beautiful? So owl's my totem, but I love the artwork in these cards too. I have a lot of other decks. I just think that these are the most cohesive message for collective spreads, but maybe I'll one day mix it up, put some of my other decks in this. Anyhow, the upper world showed upright. And that brings a message of listening to the messages from the cosmos, okay? So as above, so below. It's the same thing I talked about when you pay attention to astrology. This is a tool. And so this talks about our allies that exist in those higher realms, those higher planes of existence. And it says, fear not the transition that you're moving through, that it may feel really intense right now, but it is the irritation that you need to make the change. So it's kind of like you being backed into a corner. You're being asked to make that radical decision so that you can get out of the corner, so you can make that change. So it's very cohesive today, this spread. Like the hexahedron in reverse is saying, you have to make a radical decision. And the upper world is saying, this is the irritation you need to make the change. So pay attention to that. And so remember this, the stone is always what can help you move through these energies. And I don't have a sterolite stone, I'm sorry. It's also can be known as cross stone. So there's two stones that are nicknamed cross stone. There's this one, the sterolite, and then there's the rhodochrosite. Andesite. And those two stones are nicknamed cross stone, but this really is a cross. So Christianity kind of hijacked the cross, but that's not where it originated. Like the Paleolithic people also believed in the sacredness of finding crosses in nature because they believed it was the symbol of wholeness and life itself. And so this stone talks about the support of that, the support of life itself. And it will help you in the stability and find the wholeness in that which is not whole. So it talks a lot about accepting help. The tools, right? So the tools of astrology, the tools of numerology, but even those around us in the human experience. Do you refuse help because you believe asking for help is weakness? And so a lot of people have been taught this. And so this is like a taboo to ask for help. And it becomes so deeply ingrained into who you are that you actually create a physical illness in yourself when you need to ask for help. It's not weakness to ask for help. It's actually great strength. And so if it helps you to think of it instead as like a delegating, right? Creating a team. It's way better to think of it like that, because asking for help is not a weakness. It actually takes great strength to recognize those that are actually capable of helping you. And being like a gratitude hog, not asking for help, also robs people of the ability to feel worthy as well. And really, there's no one outside of you. There is nothing outside of you. Everyone is you. So if you start to realize that, you judge no one, but then you say, you are worthy. You are the best person for this. Can you help me out with this? It's okay to do that. You don't have to do everything alone. Everything is you. It's just another facet of you. And so remember, you have backed yourself into a corner. This is the agitation you need to make the change, and Starlight Crossstone can actually help you feel comfortable in asking for help if you need a lifeline to get you out of that. Maybe that's the radical change, that you've never asked for help before, and you're gonna actually ask the advice of someone. Wow. And it's gonna really empower you. And so Palhik Mana, the medicine of the butterfly Kachina, showed up. I love these cards too. Look at the artwork on that. How beautiful. That mandala, it's so beautiful. Anyhow, this energy, if you remember, showed up, I think it was like a week ago, but we talked about being in that stage of transforming from the caterpillar to the butterfly, right? So this talks about moving into that transformation, and you will achieve that fullness of your highest self, to be beautiful and unfurl your wings and fly in the beautiful and colorful flight of this butterfly. And so it brings the message of, yes, fly, beautiful butterfly, fly, and look at how beautiful you are, and there's no one like you, and really step into your uniqueness and be visible. And so I love that, because right now you're in the corner, but when you make that radical change, you're going to see how you do embody that amazing energy of the butterfly. You have transformed yourself. You have metamorphosized into this greater version of yourself. But do not ever get stuck in thinking that there has to be a more perfect version of yourself. You are already perfect as you are, and there's no one like you, so there's no competition, right? That's the corruption of the ego. That's why I say the ego needs to be eradicated, not to be integrated, because that corruption is what created the hierarchy. There is no hierarchy. There's no one above or below you. There's no one like you, so how is that even fucking possible? It's not possible. So that is the spread for today. Thank you all for hanging in there. I love you. I love you. And I appreciate you. I recognize that your most valuable commodity is your time and energy. And I appreciate so very much you sharing that with me. So thank you. I love you. Oh, Grand Rising, beautiful Sister Maria. And thank you, Ava. Oh, I love you back. I love you back, Lisa. I miss you, Lisa. I know California is so fortunate to have you, but I miss you. I love you, Diana. I love you, Maria. And so thank you all. And I am sorry for any misalignment that I myself have caused. Please forgive me. I love you. And thank you for the opportunity.